standing just a little bit farther back, it occurs to me that this might be a good backdrop.
Yeah.
Sort of like that flower bed that I got a photo of myself in and on the Trans Rockies run. That was a trip. Come here, I want to show you something. My pet beehive.
What is in there?
Bees in that tree.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a log.
They all live in there?
Yeah. Yeah,
Those are the ones that go up in the tree there?
Well, that's certainly some of them. What happened was a friend of mine called me up and he was developing a piece of property. It was like, 4x4 split, and he had to enlarge the road because the county made him do it. So he called me up, and because his cat driver knocked down a bunch of trees, of course, and one of them he knocked down had bees in it, and so he had to stop because he was getting stung. So anyway, Steve called me up and said, how much would you charge me if you to take out this bee tree? And because he knew I had skill. I've worked for beekeepers and I've owned bees. And so I said, well, only $50 if you help me get the tree. And so we went over there, and I was sawing the branches off with a chainsaw, and, I smoked them a little. And, if anybody should have got stung, it was me. And he was over across the street, and he got stung. And then we came back after I prepped it all. We came back to lift it into the truck at night. Again, I smoked him, and I lifted one end, he lifted the other. And as we were loading into the truck, he got stung, and I didn't. And then we're unloading it here, and he got stung, and I didn't. And he says, so what's the deal? And I said, Steve, you have to be one with the bee. It's a Zen thing. Which is true. Yeah. It is. And the tarps, that's just so that they stay warm in the winter and cool in the summer. I just had those extra tarps around. But it's actually a beautiful log. That's the whole log. I had to put a piece of plywood on that end. That's the bee tree.
Nice. Now I'll probably get stung and you won't.
Yeah.
I need more zen.
Yeah. You have to be one with the bee.
House.
It's leaning against our house right now. And it just grows bigger and bigger every year. 20 years ago it was like a really cute thing.
Right.
20 years ago it was smaller than that tree. And that one's going to have to come out too because no, that one's got a few more years. Because we can actually cut away a part of the roof first. But yeah, this one, I guess I could cut away a little more of the roof. Give it a couple more years. It's a shame to take them down.
Yeah.
But I definitely need to make it at least make it a smaller tree, because at this point there's so much tree up there to catch the wind that it's just inviting disaster, and if it did fall, of course, it would just crush the house.
Where's your bedroom?
Sometimes we sleep on the floor in front of the fire, which is right where the tree is. I like sleeping there.
Yeah.
The other place we sleep is there, and the master bedroom's up there, but right now I'm tearing out the ceiling because the people who built it, they didn't put any insulation between the ceiling and the roof. And so it's a vaulted ceiling, and it's got 4x4s. You can just see the mental process these people went through. They got free 4x4s. And they said, well, I don't have to put the 4x4s nearly close together as I would 2x4s, the normal rafter. And so they put them like 27 inches apart. And the spaces between the 4x4s are 25, I forget, it's 25 and a half or 25 and a quarter or 3/4. Oh my gosh.
How long did they film for?
Oh, they were here for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I imagine that, you know, they spend a lot of time doing other people too.
Right. Well, you're the only person other than Killian that was interviewed in that video.
Huh. I figured there'd be 3 or 4 of them.
So you got a cougar for your first year?
Eventually.
Yeah. What year did they give it to you?
I don't know. It was somewhere in the 90s. It was kind of funny. It's like Cowman and I never got one.
Yeah.
When they went retrospective, they went back to Andy Gonzalez, but they didn't go to Cowman and I because there wasn't really an organized event. Yeah. This one's really interesting. This was they don't do this anymore, but this is well, I mean, they don't do it in that size.
Yeah.
But that's the Wasatch, the eagle that the Wasatch presents to the people who do the Grand Slam. The funny thing about this race is, or at least the series of races, was that I did the Western States and then I did Vermont because I wanted to. And I was back at Vermont, and this guy who I'd run Western States with, he was like a walker. And he says, you know, come on down to Leadville. He says, I'm going to do Leadville. So, you know, I said, well, why would I want to do Leadville? He says, well, you're going to want to do it sometime during your life, so why not now? And so I said, okay, well, that's fine. So I started training for Leadville, and of course, the problem was, could I get in that late? Because it was like just a couple of weeks before the race, or 3 weeks before. And I guess the answer was yes. Basically, Gordy Ainsleigh can get in any time. And so, actually, you know, the only race I've ever been kept out of is my own.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Norm Klein got pissed off at me one year because I got the board to reverse a really unwise decision he made. And so the next year, I hadn't run my qualifier, and I hadn't even applied in November. And I called him up, I don't know, 11 days before the race. I didn't expect to be able to run because I'd had an injury that pulled me out the last year. And so I called him up 11 days before the race and said, Norm, I just did a 40-mile training run and my knee held together, or ankle, or whatever it was. I guess it was an ankle. And so I said, I'd like to run. And he said, there might be a problem with that, because I didn't follow the rules. So he kept me out. That guy wouldn't even have a job if it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Nobody would have ever known who Norm Klein was. Hello? I'm taking a bunch of pills for my knee.
What's that? Salsa?
Trader Joe's roasted garlic spaghetti sauce. Best tasting in the world. It's also like prostate cancer prevention in a bottle, because onions, garlic, and tomatoes deter prostate cancer, and it's got a lot of all of those. It's my favorite sauce.